If you have a supportive family, you have faith in God and in your guru, and you have zest for life, you can pretty much achieve anything.
How did you decide that, let's send Vikram to do, or for the other kids also, that they should go to a boarding school to study?
See, number one, boarding schools are a big leveler. You can be from a rich family, you can be from a middle class family. Well, the students don't care.
I've always, in my head and also for everybody else, I've always been a Baidyanath boy. I remember when I joined Doon school, for the first couple of years, all my seniors would call me Chavanprash.
So Vikram, tell us a little bit about the book that you and your mom have written together, the Ayurveda Advantage, if I'm not wrong.
Ayurveda is in my culture, in my belief system and in my DNA.
When it comes to balancing family versus ambition, you want the best of both. How was your journey like, Auntie?
In my nucleus family as well as the traditional family, tradition has never got mixed up with personal freedom. They let the person be the person is. And that's very important.
Especially in a joint family, situations can be complicated. It's always in a state of flux, relationships, right? To forgive, forget and move on is really, really fantastic.
Looking at where you are today, Auntie, your journey, your children, your legacy. What's the one thing you're the most proud of?
I'll be very honest.
Every parent and every child's journey is unique and beautiful. I want Shivai to know that he was loved before he was born, he's loved today, and he will always be loved.
Oh, that's such a lovely one.
So Vikram, you knew always that you have to join the family business at some point.
No, that was never discussed. Mama and Dad said to me that I should do what I want to do. I was enjoying working in England. I never actually thought I would come back to India.
Welcome back to Kin and Kindness. Today we explore relationships which have shaped us, legacies which carry us, and really transformations which make us the individuals we are today. I'm joined by Punya, my co-host.
Thank you, Shubhani. So I'm a college counselor. I run a college counseling firm called EduCoach, and my co-host Shubhani is a life coach, and she runs a very, very successful, triumphant practice, which is about healing people and having dialogues with them to help them sort their situations. But today's podcast is not about me or about Shubhani. It's about a dynamic mother and son duo that we have today. Let me introduce the first guest, Vicram Baidyanath. Vikram, thank you for being on our podcast today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much. So Vikram comes from the legacy of the Baidyanath Ayurveda business. Vikram is at the helm of the business affairs right now of a business that was started multiple generations ago, and he inherited the business from his father, who nurtured it further, and now Vikram is taking the lead forward. And Vikram is supported by his mother, Dr. Madhu, who's the second guest today. Auntie, welcome to our podcast.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
So today's episode is going to be about family values. It's going to be about bonding. It's going to be about family business. It's going to be about a deep bond that is shared between a mother and a son. It's going to be about culture. It's going to be about parenting. It's going to be about grandparenting. It's going to be about co-parenting. I'm not going to spill all the beans right now. You've got to watch what's coming.
That's amazing, Punya. It's actually, seriously, today is going to be a very, very interesting one because we have with us my favorite auntie, Dr. Madhu Sharma, who has been such an inspiration, auntie. You've really been, especially if I can dive already into, you've always seemed to have worn many hats in your life from the beginning. No, I met you, you were a wife and a mother. Later on, I get to know that you are also into the research and development, and now you've also helped Vikram write a book. Am I right in assuming that?
You're right, Shivani. I just passed on my knowledge to Vikram. And I've been gathering this knowledge and studying Ayurveda since over 3 decades, nearly 4 decades now. And I'm lucky that I got to actually see the manufacturing processes, because companies don't open up their manufacturing processes to the doctors or the vets to see, because that is their own secret domain, right?
Mhm.
And so I just passed on the knowledge to him, and he took notes. He taped my conversations and he took notes, and he studied. And he would ask very intelligent and pertinent questions,
Mhm.
you know. And let me say that it worked out as a student teacher relationship at that time.
How amazing. That Guru Shishya.
Yeah,
Bilkul.
absolutely, like a guru shishya.
Which reminds me, Auntie, what was your education all about? And it was in the 1950s,
No,
60s?
60s and
60s
70s.
and
Huh?
70s, yes.
Well, I've done psychology honors, and I've done masters in English literature,
Wow.
English language, and then I wanted to study Ayurveda.
Mm-hmm.
But as my mother-in-law put it, that you don't have to go to the colleges. The teachers and the professors will come here and teach. And so
Wow.
it happened that my adventure and my love for Ayurveda was given expression to.
Mm-hmm.
And they came and they taught me all the renowned Veds.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to say that one of the Veds who taught me was the advisor to the Sri Lankan government, Ram Raksh Pathak ji, and
Wow.
we had employed him. Baidyanath employed him. So he really went into depth with me, to the extent that he taught me how to even make out whether a product is ready or not, as per the norms of Ayurveda.
And were there trials which were being done? Because I know you're also into research.
Yes.
So then after the knowledge, how did your research journey begin?
My research journey began with under the guidance of the Veds, the learned Veds.
Okay.
After that, I did a lot of freelance research, and in some trials, Baidyanath, of course, was involved.
Right.
And the trials are confidential because they have been done by the Rosenthal Center of Alternate Medicine, which is
Wow.
the wing of Columbia University,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
only Ivy League that has
Yes.
a center for alternate medicine.
Just imagine.
And so, how we figure in the picture is that they did the trials through BSU Banaras in the university, and those people there, the doctors, wanted just Baidyanath medicines. That's how I got involved.
So while being into the medicine, the Ayurveda, you were raising these three very, very competent and strong children from day one, Auntie. I mean, whether it's Vikram, Pushpanjali, and Harsh, they all have a personality of their own, an identity of their own. Kudos to the mother. It's obviously kudos to you.
I take your compliment with all humility.
What were the teachings which you passed on to all three kids? Not about the business, but how they have to conduct their life. Was there a particular teaching you wanted to impart on your children?
One was that you've got to be honest to yourself. You've got to accept yourself as you are. Measure your strengths and weaknesses. I gave them their fundamental values, taught them that. And steeped in tradition,
Yes.
they learned how to respect tradition as well. And the biggest thing was this, that you've got to respect tradition, but you've got to be your own person.
Yes. So, Vikram, now we
Yes.
come to you. You became a father in COVID. I think it was
Just before COVID.
Just before COVID.
Far back as I can remember, I've always wanted to be a parent. And I knew that I was not going to undertake this journey alone because, Mama's there with me. She's my rock of Gibraltar. I have very supportive siblings.
Mm-hmm.
I have friends who are very supportive and very involved with my son. They say it takes a village to raise a child.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I experienced it and I felt it. And I felt a lot of love and support from everyone. I discussed it with Mama and I told her that, I've always wanted to be a parent and she's known this.
Mm-hmm.
She told me to follow my heart.
Mm-hmm.
I then went and spoke to a lot of different families, studied different family structures to see what it takes to raise emotionally confident, well-adjusted children.
Fabulous.
Now, lastly, what I did was that I went on a month-long road trip to across Canada with my sister, her husband, and her children. That gave me a lot of insight into parenting. Because the kids would sometimes be in a good mood, sometimes they would throw tantrums. There were all kinds of things happening. I tell you something, Shubhani, all along, I knew that I was ready. I just had to learn the practical ropes.
and shed maybe some preconceived notions that only when you reach a milestone do you become a father. Sometimes you have to even shed, like, to be a single parent. It's a leap of faith, and you took it. And to me, I feel that you have been one person who, because you were ready, you were being able to take it. Am I right in that assumption?
I'm not a single parent. So for me to take that credit is not correct. My mom is completely co-parenting with me. In fact, she is more of a parent to Shivai than I am. He calls her Ma and he sleeps with her at night. In the evening, he just needs her around him, nobody else. To answer the rest of your questions, I feel that if you have a supportive family, you have faith in God and in your guru, and you have zest for life, you can pretty much achieve anything.
That's so true. Auntie, how was it for you when Vikram came and asked you that, Mama, I think it's time that he wanted to be a father? What was your thought process? What did you think? Especially you were at an age, and we know that it requires a lot of commitment. And you've done such a great job in raising the 3 children. And there was going to be a new chapter in your life too. Tell us something about that.
I was thrilled.
Excellent.
I was just thrilled. And I knew for some time that he wants to be a parent.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I just felt like saying, Carpe diem.
Yeah.
Seize the opportunity, seize the moment and go ahead.
Right. That's amazing.
So, Vikram, tell us a little bit about your childhood growing up. Do you belong to Delhi? Are you from somewhere else? Where did you go to school? Where did you go to university, etc.?
I went to a boarding school very early. Went to Welham Boys, and then after that I went to Doon School. Those were amazing, beautiful years. Dehradun back then was a beautiful small town, as Shubhani knows.
Yes.
We saw a lot of each other, she and I.
Correct.
So Doon School shaped me to a large extent into the individual that I am today. It gave me a lot of confidence.
Right.
That coupled with all the love and support that I got from my parents. During our holidays, we were always traveling abroad. So we traveled a lot as kids with our parents. I remember we would come to Delhi and the next day we would be off to London, where I had 2 of my cousin Masis living. My mom's best friend was living there. Then we would go straight to Texas, where I had an aunt living. I had another cousin living. We were just traveling a lot. Those were very beautiful years. And then I finally finished my education from the London School of Economics, LSC, where I did a double master's in industrial relations and human resource management.
That's phenomenal.
It was backbreaking, and we were all married to the library during those
Can
days.
imagine, yeah.
It was nuts.
Yeah.
There were so many dropouts from that course because to do 1 master's is tough enough, and here we were doing 2.
Huh.
But I'm glad that I did it. I'm glad that it all happened. Then I worked in England for about 4.5 years. 2005 is when I returned to India and joined the family business.
Wow.
Great. So, Auntie, all 3 kids of yours went to a boarding school because Delhi, the trend of boarding school education has been more popular over the years from tier 2 cities because tier 1 cities still had leading schools, though I am a big advocate of boarding school education for tier 1 or tier 2 cities. I think there's nothing, comparable to a boarding school education. I'm sure Shubhani, as a boarding school student herself, agrees to this.
Yeah.
But how did you decide that, let's send Vikram to Doon, or for the other kids also, that they should go to a boarding school to study?
See, number one, boarding schools are a big leveler. You can be from a rich family, you can be from a middle class family. Well, the students don't care.
Absolutely.
And don't you dare try to show off. Okay.
Actually, that's considered the negative. If you try and show off.
Try and show off the other students set you right.
Yeah, you can be bullied for
Yeah,
being,
absolutely.
The cool part
the
used
show.
to be that in school, in boarding school, to be popular, you had to be good at either sport or study or an extracurricular.
Right.
More than to be
Where you
popular
come
because
from,
of
yeah.
where you come from.
Right.
That was such a huge leveler, especially for in the women, in the girls' school. It was really that.
And the second thing is this, that I'm a big advocate for hostels because like we see, life is fast-paced. Parents don't have the time. besides that, even if parents give enough time to the children, like I gave all my time, I stopped going to parties and when my children were growing up. But the travel time, from school to home,
And planning once
hard.
they're back home, what to do, where
what
to
to
send
do.
them.
And you really can't cover all the aspects of a growing up child. You cannot teach him sports and then do your homework and then go for this class, that class is very tiring. Whereas if a child is in the boarding, then all the things are there on the campus itself.
Right.
So that really makes the child bloom and realize his or her potential. That's it.
No, I totally think, especially I think for the first time, what do you say, Vikram, that we get that time to be away from our family and actually think for ourselves. Who are we?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
what do we want in life? No? What do you...
And also it makes us appreciate our family.
Correct.
We realize, we don't take them for
Wow.
granted. When you're living at home,
Yeah.
you sometimes take your parents and the love that you get from them and the support for granted.
Right.
In a
Couldn't
boarding
agree
school, you
more,
don't
yeah.
do that. You realize how much your parents love you
You
and how much they
appreciate
do for you.
something when you
Yeah.
don't have it. So
Yeah.
when you're
Yeah.
actually living away from your families, when you realize
That's right.
what value they bring to the table. So well said, Vic.
And I must say that a boarding school child always has this inherent independence
Mm-mm.
because they've always, from the beginning, have
Yeah.
had to fend for themselves, make their own
Yeah.
decisions. And that's a really key part to really growing up, no? I must
Moreover,
say.
they get to mix around with their own age group.
Also,
Right.
yes.
And they're exposed to
sense of
many
camaraderie.
people many students of their own age group.
Correct,
And then they
correct.
realize where they stand with them.
Right.
Right.
That's very important.
So Vikram, you knew always that you have to join the family business at some point, or you were going with the flow, and your family was also very open that if you don't join the family business, it's fine. You can be an industrial psychologist, you can be working outside in the corporate world, you can do your own jazz, or it was almost assumed / believed that at some point, after few hits and trials, experiments, exploratory stuff, you will be joining the business at some point.
No, that was never discussed. Mama and dad said to me that I should do what I want to do. I was enjoying working in England. I never actually thought I would come back to India. But my dad's health was up and down. And, my sister was at that time in the US. She was in Virginia. She was working over there in Richmond and I was in London working. And the two of us had a chat and we felt that we should come back to spend more time with dad because we didn't want to have that regret later that we did not spend enough time with him.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we came back for that reason. And at that point in time, I thought I would come back for a few years and go back to England.
Correct.
But then once you're back, you're back.
Yeah.
Right.
Then you get yourself involved in the tradition. How has it been for you to really carry this weight of legacy while being, now exposed to the world? How do you balance this tradition and the weight of the legacy with this being out into the world and experiencing world on your own terms?
So I've always, in my head and also for everybody else, I've always been a Baidyanath boy. When I joined school, I remember when I joined Doon school, for the first couple of years, all my seniors would call me Chavanprash. So that thing has always been there and that is who I am. That's where I come from. That's my identity.
Sure.
And I'm very grateful to my ancestors for that. The rest of my confidence comes from the love I get from my parents, that I got from my parents and my school and Doon school.
Actually, the brotherhood which you form when you are together.
Yeah.
8 months of the year, we're all together. So there is that, it's almost siblings then, it's not like, oh, they're just friends. It's siblings because we're spending so much time
And the
together.
interesting thing is that even sometimes, you may not get on with someone,
Yeah.
but you learn to deal with each other's idiosyncrasies
Yeah.
and you realize that it's not that difficult.
Yeah.
And some of the people a couple of guys that I didn't get on with in school, I'm very good friends with them today.
Right.
So Vikram, you are more of a home buddy, you're more of a work buddy, you're more of a friend buddy, like you love going out, socializing. What is your core personality type?
So as Shubhani knows, Mama knows that I've always been a very social person. I love my friends and that's something that I've learned from my mom because she has a very solid circle of her girlfriends. And Mama said to me that, we don't judge each other. There are no judgment calls being taken anywhere. We accept each other's situations and we are there for each other selflessly. And I imbibed this quite early in my life. And that is a very important part of my personality. I love my friends. My friends love me. My friends in Delhi and my friends in London.
Sure.
All of them. Obviously, I don't party as much as I used to because of my son now, because I love spending time with him. And in the mornings, it's hilarious because him and my mom sleep together. They share a room. But he'll come to my bedroom. He'll come in with his nanny and he'll ask me, "Are you awake?" So then I turn around and tell him, "Now I am." He's like, "I came
How
to say good
cute.
morning."
Oh,
So,
he's so.
so I like to be present for him in the mornings when he comes. It's a very precious time. So it's
Yeah.
nice to sleep on time.
Yeah.
I
because of
have
that.
always seen you being such a hands-on father. I have to
Mm.
say that. That's one thing which, whenever I've seen you get him over, when we were having a chat, or even at his birthday, there's been this immense patience which you have for him, which I think even as a mother I lack sometimes. I lose my cool.
Sometimes as a father, I totally lack, so I can understand. Yeah.
I get that from my dad.
Yeah.
My dad was a very patient human being. He was a very good listener.
Mm-hmm.
In a world of crazy competitive talkers, it's nice to be a good listener. And my dad was that, and he was very patient with us.
So from your father, you got that. Then what did you get from your mom?
Oh, a lot.
The
mom-
friendships, the
Yeah.
social circle.
My mom
yeah.
is my rock of Gibraltar.
Yeah.
It's amazing that once she does not get unfazed by anything.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what life throws at her, she is fine. I've never seen her get perturbed by any situation. My mom is a great one at doing SWOT analysis of everything. For
Fabulous.
anything, she will do her own SWOT analysis, then she will do the situations SWOT analysis, then she will do the SWOT analysis of everybody who's involved.
Because she's a researcher.
I was just
by
going to say
heart,
that
I
she
know.
gets it from her research.
She knows how to compartmentalize, break it
Absolutely.
down, get it to the molecule, and say, "Hey, that was simple."
As
And
a
it helps.
college counselor, I'm often approached by parents and students, and they're like, research is becoming redundant. Why do we even need to do that, etc.? But I feel it's such a good life skill to have. It's not just researching in the works that
Yeah.
you're doing, but just analyzing situations, analyzing life is
Absolutely.
So as a
that's the
life coach,
culmination. Yeah.
I actually do think that I feel like as if I'm a researcher, because you have to, every person's psyche is different. They've come with their own set of understanding of life, their own prisms. And how do I first address them and then, totally break it apart and then rejig them at their pace, not at my
Yeah,
pace.
absolutely.
So it is like a research. You can't speed up an experiment, so to speak.
To the extent that even when I was planning to move back to India, so I called Mama and I said that, Dad's health has been a bit up and down. So Pushpandi and I thinking of moving back, but that would mean I would have to give up my job. So she said to me that you're old enough to take that decision. Do your SWOT analysis. Do the SWOT analysis of the situation. Do the SWOT analysis of what your life would be there vis-a-vis what it would be if you were to move back to India. And you will have your answer. Sleep over it and you'll have your answer. That, and of course, my mother's ability to not hold grudges, especially in a joint family. Situations can be complicated. It's always in a state of flux, relationships, right? To forgive, forget, and move on is really, really fantastic. It's amazing. And that's another thing I've learned from her. And to work hard. At her age, she works much harder than I do.
No, I think all of us need to learn from you, Auntie.
There was a work ethic in their generation,
Yeah.
I think. I think there was a
Absolutely.
different work ethic.
Yeah. Again, sorry to give so many examples from the industry that I belong to, but when I look at the youth today, everybody wants shortcuts and they don't want to stay wherever. Also because life has so many options. They've joined Duke and now they're like, okay, how do I move from Duke to Northwestern? How do I move from Northwestern to Columbia? How do I move from Columbia to Penn? So this whole, they've got something phenomenal, but they very ambitious. They're in a state of flux. They want to keep moving from one place to the other. So I think that sense of focus is, so there are pros and cons, but I think definitely that state of focus that your generation, Auntie, had, I don't think today's generation has that. And I'm sure Shabani would be dealing with a lot of this in her own practice too.
I have to make them, get accustomed to delayed gratification. Ki jaldi nahi aata har cheez. It takes a while to, for things
Absolutely.
to come about. So, Vikram, once you became a father, I want to understand what are some things which you remember about your father which you've inculcated, which you want to pass on to your son?
My dad, he spent a lot of quality time with us.
Mm-hmm.
All of us as a family, we would sit and eat at least one meal together.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody had to talk. So if somebody wasn't talking enough, dad would turn towards that person and say, it's your turn now.
Oh, nice.
So there was a lot of open communication. There was a lot of honesty. There was a lot of love that dad gave all three of us.
Actually, to grow up in an environment, Auntie, which has a lot of love and unconditionality to it. Like, we don't love you because you're good. We just love you because you're ours. It seems to be really a part of both you and uncle. Your ethos has been. Therefore, raising 3 confident children. How has your journey been? Because for a person who's been so cerebral in her way of thinking, being married into a traditional household, and even after uncle's passing, you went actually back in, instead of retreating, you went back in and did more work and did more research. Can you just give us a little bit of a glimpse of what was that, the journey of a young Dr. Madhu who gets married, has her duties, which she has performed, but still keeps her identity in place, which still keeps blossoming, irrespective of the circumstance?
You see, my father passed away quite early. I was just 8 years old.
Okay.
And my mother brought me up. So at times I just realized that I have to obey her, keep her happy. So that was probably the only compromise I made in my life. After that, it was just, I realized some things that I've got to make certain sacrifices for my mother. She wanted me to get married, early. So when I gave
Their
in,
due respect, yeah.
with due respect, I gave in.
Right.
And after that, initially we were staying in a joint family when my children were born.
Mm-hmm.
And kudos to the joint family setup and our joint family setup, that accepting me, I didn't hear any other family member scolding my children at all.
Wow.
There was just love all around. They could go to any fridge, open anything, go to any room, and they would be entertained. You know how children run around the factory, and then they throw things here and there, and so. But nobody else got angry at them. They just were explained very politely and in a very loving manner. So coming back to me, then when I got married and I had these children, so a lot of balancing was required, about being myself, about being a wife and a mother, and of course, upholding the family tradition and the values in a joint family. I would say, and for me, the most difficult was balancing the balancing act between a wife and a mother.
I can.
Because, a mother wants to give her all to her children. And at the same time, the husband feels a bit neglected. But then again, I managed it, because if a person is committed enough to oneself and realizes, and then again, the SWOT analysis comes, okay, how, for me, that's my favorite word. And I've taught my children that, it comes and you realize how to create that balance,
Mm-hmm.
then it does come along. And since I was allowed by my mother-in-law and everybody else in the family, they respected me for the fact that I wanted to learn further.
Mm-hmm.
And in our family, in my nucleus family as well as the traditional family, tradition has never got mixed up with personal freedom. They let the person be the person is, and that's very important.
I must say that therefore it has remained updated, because there is tradition, but the personal freedom ensures that the families keep being
Absolutely.
updated.
Tradition with modernity.
modernity.
That's what.
But how do you get modernity if the freedom is lacking? So that is such a huge part of understanding
absolutely. Understanding and decoding the ethics and the morals of a joint family, which has stayed together. Like in our business, we've been together for over 100 years.
Yes.
That speaks for itself.
Exactly.
And we haven't gone public. It's family within the family.
Right. So Vikram, tell us a little bit about the book that you and your mom have written together, the Ayurveda Advantage, if I'm
Yeah.
not wrong.
Ayurveda is in my culture, in my belief system, and in my DNA. Because I grew up in and around the Baidyanath factories, I think that I started imbibing Ayurveda from a very young age. Mama, of course, is an expert, in the field. Before my son was born, we moved to Gujarat, and we had rented a very, very beautiful farmhouse over there.
Right.
Now, a couple of weeks after my son was born, the COVID pandemic
Hit.
broke out.
Yeah.
And then after that, of course, the world shut down, right? During that situation of forced isolation, Mama and I started having extensive conversations on Ayurveda. And it was then that it dawned on me that, her depth on the subject was just next level.
I can imagine.
So I started day in and day out, we would discuss Ayurveda. I started taking copious notes. I started recording everything that she was saying. And it's only later when I sat down with the transcripts that I realized that a book was staring back at me.
Wow.
It was then that I started fleshing out the bare bones of the book. And that is how Ayurveda Advantage came about.
So it wasn't even something you had planned.
It happened very organically. And what's interesting is that the birth of the book coincided with the birth of my son.
Shibai. I was just going to say so you basically had two newborns back to back.
Yes.
Which must have been such a creatively important chapter for you. If I can just go back, did you bond with Shivai immediately? Or was it staggered? Was it through through phases that this is my son? And
like for the first 6 months when my daughter was born, I was just trying to question what is a father supposed to do until I got my act together and I realized, okay, that now I'm probably ready to start, doing things with her, etc., etc. So I think that's where Shabani's question is coming from, that what have been the key milestones, say for you in the last 5 years?
For me, it was immediate, as I'd waited for that moment for so long. When I first saw Shivai, I remember a wave of happiness surging through my body.
oh, wow.
It is something that has to be experienced. It can't be explained.
No.
It's like you see a part of yourself, a part of your heart, outside of you.
I always say
and,
that.
and then you hold that thing in your
Yeah.
hand, and then that thing is moving, making these cute sounds.
Yeah.
It's just
Animated. I
Yeah.
mean, it's literally seeing your heart in an animated form. And it's
Yes.
so beautiful. And then you have to train that heart to actually leave you in some, for boarding or for anything. And that becomes,
And what was very interesting is that the minute Mama held him, he stopped crying.
oh.
Yeah,
That
that
was-
was really interesting.
From all your 4 children, now that I have to kind of make even Shivai part of it, who's your favorite?
It's difficult, and that's a tricky question.
I
Not
know, I
allowed.
asked.
Not allowed. Not allowed.
No, Mama, say it
Before-
now. Say it.
Not allowed.
I love that. She's so fair. And she has, she's got she's understood.
Knowing her analysis and
yeah.
paralysis sort of a mindset, I'm sure she has the answer in her mind, but she's just being
Yeah.
politically correct.
Which politically correct comes to the statement, women have it a bit tough, I feel.
do.
When it comes to balancing family versus ambition, you want the best of both. We have it in us to do the best for both. How was your journey like, Auntie? Was there a struggle there? Was it smooth? It couldn't be smooth because even now, women in, trying to organize it, it's not easy. At that time, it must be even more challenging.
You see, I was married in a joint family, and wherever there's joint family business, there's a sense of entitlement in every member. Now, the point is this, the very important and the sensitive point is this. Well, what are you entitled to? And how much are you entitled to? If the elders in the family think that just because they are the elders, they can sort of get away and do anything, that's not right. That is not their entitlement. Their entitlement is to take care of the family business and nurture the youngers.
So true.
Isn't it?
So true.
But what happens sometimes is that certain elders get carried away and they think that they are the backbone of everything and they are the decisive factors. Well, something like that happened in my life also. And I felt that there were certain elders, and with due respect to them,
Right.
well, just stepping the
Unreasonable at times.
unreasonable, they were being illogical. They were being unreasonable,
Mhm.
And I didn't want to be rude because in our family, whatever happens, the culture of showing respect to elders is always kept intact. And there is no compromise on that. Nobody can shout or raise their voice on elders. And we also have to set an example for the youngers that way.
So true.
So, in my own way, I kind of, took that to heart. And I thought that somewhere something very unfair was being doled out to my family. I stood my ground, worked around it. And I want to say that, every situation or circumstance comes with a certain intelligence of its own because it's connected with the universe, it's connected with your life, it's happening.
Mm.
It's happening. It's pratyaksh, like I
Yes.
would say.
Yes.
So that intelligence a person has to understand. What is the situation trying to tell you? What does that particular circumstance demand from you? And how to go around that and get fulfill your aim or whatever you want in your life, keeping your sanity, keeping your balance, and keeping the family relations intact. So if a person relies on that intelligence of the situation and your own self, and you somewhere synchronize it, it works in synergy, then those things are achieved. And it did manage to achieve. It was not easy. It took me 3 years, but I managed to achieve.
You achieved it in 3 years.
3 years.
And
That's
people take
very a lifetime.
decades or
A
a full
lifetime.
lifetime. Yeah.
Well, you have to, whether it's somebody who's much elder than you
Yes.
or somebody who's much younger than you, they should be in the place that is their place, like,
Sure.
in his or her place. I have my place. Vikram has his place. The elders have their place. And let us be loving and logical about it. That's it.
I love the whole balance of love and logic because, often there are people who can take it for granted just because they are, elder to the youngers.
Yeah.
Will throw their weight around and try to boss around just because, they feel that they are the older one and they can just get away with anything. And unconditionally, they will still command and get that respect in the end because they are old. And I loved what you said about, that how there is still, it's non-negotiable to be rude or to be disrespectful. That still defines the core premise of your family and your family values. But how you worked your way around, strategized to be able to convey your point still, that just because you are the elder one does not mean that, you
Well,
trample upon the
yes, it
younger
was
one.
less
Yeah.
through talk, more through correspondence. Because you can put, words, and they don't generate the tone you're putting them in or the tone you would like to talk in.
I was just going to ask that instead of reaction, it has to be then a response.
Yes, absolutely.
You cannot, no difference in opinion can ever really be addressed and solved if it is done through the route of reaction. It has to be done through the route of response and initiative, a conversation which has valid points and dealt with a warm voice. I think emotion should only be used when you want to, voice your opinion and not when you want to form your opinion, right?
Absolutely.
So I think that is what we are really understanding what you have just told us, and it's so beautiful.
I personally feel that after what I achieved, it's my personal observation that in an unsaid, in an unexpressed manner, everybody in our family or the extended family understood that, well, you can only be illogical to a certain extent.
Okay. So Vikram, auntie had a certain vision that how she wanted to, what kind of an ecosystem or environment she wanted to bring her kids up in. And hence she stood her ground to ensure that my kids see the real value of respect while justice prevails in the way that nobody takes anybody for granted. So now that you are a father, what sort of a vision do you have in the way you want to bring up your your child. Shiva has already started going to school. I believe he studies at the British school. So he's still 5 years old right now. And what sort of a path would you like him to take? Of course, it's going to be his own personal, unique journey. And as a family as progressive as yours would be very, very open to letting him embrace whatever the world has to, throw. But if I were to ask you today, what sort of a life ideally would you like him to have, or you as a parent would like to provide for him, what would it be?
I'm trying to emulate my parents' parenting style: open communication, honesty with boundaries. While we were growing up, the three of us, there was a lot of affection and attention that we got from our parents, but there was discipline. There were lines you could not cross. There were things you could not do. Um, I'm trying to emulate that, and I'm hoping to be a similar kind of a parent. And also for every person to understand that every parent and every child's journey is unique and beautiful. I want Shivai to know that he was loved before he was born. He's loved today, and he will always be loved.
Oh, that's such a lovely one. I want to say that to my child right now when I go back home. That's really beautiful.
It's very important that till the age of 5, a child is made to feel very secure, and really loved by everybody around. That really develops their brain, because most of the brain develops
So
at
true.
the age of 5.
So true, Aunt.
So all those, and later on, the manifestations of confidence or fear or determination or ambition all lies in the way they've been treated as a child till the age of 5. The answer lies
I
there.
so agree. Yeah.
Yeah, psychologically speaking.
Exactly. I was just going to say, Auntie, this is psychology. You just said psychology one-on-one.
It's cause and effect. If you want to see what
Your first 5 to 7 years of your life, you only have an emotional brain. You don't have the intellectual brain developed. So in that emotional brain, forget teaching them skills as much as teach them love, safety, just growth, grace. It's just in those 5 years, those 5 to 7 years, you're so right on that, Auntie, because if we get that covered, then whatever your skills set is, it will just get enhanced because it's passing through your emotional brain into your intellectual brain. And if your emotional brain is healthy, your intellectual skill-based brain is going to...
Absolutely. And they should be allowed to be naughty.
For sure.
For they should be allowed to mess around,
It's
like they play with
experimenting.
sand.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
And
touching, feeling.
And you see, memory always stays. And that is the memory which is accumulated between the age or till the age of 5 or 6, 7.
Right.
That stays with them throughout life.
Absolutely. So Vikram, tell us what are some of the things that you bond with Shivai over? What are the things that you'll end up doing, whether it's a particular activity that you guys regularly do, you bond over food, there's a restaurant that you'll end up going very often to, there's a particular holiday spot that Shivai and you love hanging out. So just tell us, how do you bond over Shivai, which makes him feel loved, as Auntie said, which gives him that feeling of security, safety, love, bonding?
I accompany him to his football classes. That's a lovely time. So I just sit there and I watch him play football. And he loves football.
Are you a soccer dad, basically?
Yeah, that's one. I pick him up from school almost every day. And that's also an amazing time because while we are driving back home, he tells me about his day, what he did, the activities, all of that stuff. I've already started planning holidays with him. We recently went to Dubai. So before that, I sat and I had a conversation with him about Dubai, which is what Mama used to do with us. She used to get the world map out. And she would tell us that this is where we are going. And this is how we are going to go there. And this is what this place is known for. And she would expect us to do enough homework on the place before we got there. And I've started that process with Shivai. So when we'd gone to Maldives also, I told him in advance that, this is what Maldives is all about. And this is how it's going to be. So he had a good sense of what to expect. And he was very excited.
Right.
Looking at where you are today, Auntie, your journey, your children, your legacy. What's the one thing you're the most proud of?
See, I'll be very honest.
Yes.
I'm very proud of the fact that I let myself remain myself, And I'm very proud of my children because they've grown up to be confident adults, responsible, kind hearted, and God fearing. And as far as my journey goes, it's my love for Ayurveda still continues with a lot of passion because my passion comes from the very subject itself.
Sure.
It's not related to this large family business which the family is managing. It's to do with the very subject of Ayurveda. I'm passionate about it. And I'm fascinated by the alchemy of herbs. And I'm really left awestruck that the more I read and the more I learn, the more I educate myself, I realize I don't know anything. I hardly know the ABC. I probably just till the A or B of Ayurveda. And so it's the kind of a love affair for life with Ayurveda.
Auntie, anytime you've landed up in a debate of Ayurveda versus conventional medicine, there are a lot of arguments, etc., keep happening. And because you're so passionate about Ayurveda, I'm sure that, you may have had certain discussions where you would have been able to really put your point across and tell the world that it may be alternate medicine, but it is extremely powerful.
Very well asked. Very, very valid question. Yeah. So I'd gone to Port of Spain in the West Indies, and there was this debate about that, and I was also one of the participants. And of course, they started asking about Ayurveda using metals, minerals, besides herbs. So I told them that, see, minerals and metals are also used in allopathic medicine. The point is this, that a particular metal or a mineral is treated in a different way in allopathy, in a stream of medicine, and is treated in a different manner. The processes are different so that they are reduced or they are brought to that form which is acceptable to the human system. So saying that we are using this and we don't know the methods, of course our methods are time tested, especially for the generic medicines and the generic manner of distilling all these metals and minerals to that point where it's totally acceptable for the human system. And so that is one thing that is common in allopathy and Ayurveda. Another thing where I personally feel Ayurveda scores over allopathy is this, that allopathy has got no answers and no treatment for psychosomatic diseases, and Ayurveda has. And well, the West does not acknowledge it. There's no insurance for Ayurveda or alternate systems of medicines.
Correct.
But at the same time, let me tell you that John Hopkins and Columbia, and there's so many other universities, they have more trial data with them than we have.
Wow.
For psychosomatic diseases. I've been involved in many trials for psychosomatic diseases, but again, it's confidential, so I'll have to restrain myself from speaking about them.
Sure.
But that is the main point, and they have to accept that. Not only with the people from the allopathic stream of medicine, I've had heated conversations with certain Veds as well, because there was one of the talking about taking his name. But anyway, so he claimed to be Ved to very, very important people in India. I said, fine. And he was actually propagating a particular brand in Ayurveda and kind of, dismissing 2 or 3 known brands of India, ours being one of them.
Right.
So, well, he happened to come to Patna for a seminar. And I was waiting. So I was not in Patna. I flew down and I sort of extended an invitation to him to come for dinner.
Sure.
And I said, ki, whatever you're doing for a particular company, I mean, I have no objections about that. But why are you cancelling off and writing off other known brands, who are pioneers in Ayurveda?
Correct.
So he turned around and told me, ma'am, so much of sugar is used here, there, in Chavanprash and this and that. And so I told him, well, that's a generic formula. So are you trying to challenge Charak and Sushrut and the other people and Bhaishajji Ratnavali and the other textbooks, then I suppose you'll have to read them and write a big thesis. Now, on the other hand, the company that you are promoting, please tell me, Bhaishji, that okay, they are selling over-the-counter products. Now, I go and buy one for my strength, one for I've got a bad throat, I'll buy one for that. I'll buy one for my joint pain. I'll buy one for relaxation. They're all over-the-counter medicines, and I'll go to the counter and buy them. Now, tell me, if there are 2 or 3 ingredients or one ingredient that's been used in all of them, why don't they warn me that my body will only be able to assimilate this amount of dosage of that particular ingredient,
What a fabulous.
And I said the future of Ayurveda is that we need to tell our consumer, as far as patent and proprietary products are concerned, that even if we are selling over-the-counter products, we are being very careful of monitoring the dosage that, that can go in of a particular herb or a particular ingredient that's being put in those medicines.
Correct.
After that, well, he just asked me, will you join me? I said, not at all. I said, I'll be thrown
Why
out of the
don't you
house.
join me? You're a kidney donor. Can we know a little bit about that? And a cancer survivor. It would be really an honor if you could just deep dive into that a bit with us.
When my brother had renal failure, there was just no doubt. I was very clear about it, that I'll give one of my kidneys. And
how old were you?
When I gave the kidney 26 years back.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That gives me the freedom to not to divulge my age, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's more than enough.
So, and so I never had any doubt, and I approached it as with a lot of positivity. I felt that, that I'm the privileged one who in this lifetime has the privilege of doing this. And the doctors would wonder, why am I so calm and why am I so happy and all? But actually I was. It didn't, I was not scared. I was convinced everything is going to turn out fine. And at that time, it was a spontaneous decision. But later on, in retrospect, it became a kind of a life philosophy for me of letting go, the importance of letting go.
Wow.
I let go of a part of my body.
Yes.
Yes. And gradually I realized that if it benefited somebody else, it gave my brother a life tenure of another 9 years. Okay. And if it benefits somebody else, that is, well, a brownie point in the universe for me.
Sure.
But it benefited me also. I realized the importance of letting go as a philosophy. It makes a person feel better. And over here, it was a constructive letting go. But I have also, and for me, constructive letting go is also letting go of negative baggage.
Sure.
You see?
Right.
It just taught me just let go and just flow. That's it. Gives you a lot of freedom.
That's amazing. And when did cancer?
Well, I got cancer maybe 13 years after I gave the kidney.
Okay.
And I don't know, but a person needs to have faith in the universe, the working of the universe. Because when that faith is there, that okay, everything will turn out to be well, then there is no kind of nervousness. So when they wheeled me in for the surgery, they already informed my family people that it'll take 7.5 hours. And when they wheeled me in, I just went into my meditative mode, whatever distracted meditative mode or whatever. But according to me, it was total surrender and trying to be one with the proceedings of the universe. And when I became conscious later on, the doctors came to me and told me in the ICU that we wish we had more patients like you because your vitals were absolutely stable. No extra bleeding, no, rushes of high BP or pulse fluctuations. I feel that is because you've got to be calm within yourself. Calm, whatever the situation, you've got to be calm.
So do you think actually when you spoke about the universe, the letting go of the kidney prepared you for the letting go 9 years later of any kind of like you said, negative thought about anything, because that was the big journey which was coming ahead for you.
Absolutely. You're right.
Because you need to prepare yourself also for the next storm which is round the corner. And 9 years is not that long after, letting go of a kidney.
Probably the universe prepares you,
So,
You
we
have to have
never,
faith.
it's these mystic coincidences
Yeah.
which occur, and you think that, I don't know why I needed to do that. And then it takes you through, you understand that your next chapter, if you hadn't gone through what you went through right now,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have come out the person you were required to be to handle that thing. Vikram, I would love to know a bit about this from you also, because you've been part of your mother's journey. So it must be in your DNA almost.
So, Mama always says to me that every situation comes with its own intelligence. You just have to tap into it and then tune into it. Stay calm and, you will sail through it.
Mm-hmm.
She said that some time back also.
Right.
And that's what she always tells me.
But it's true. I've always seen Auntie and you actually quite even keel. It's, and I know you're dynamic.
That's well said.
So Vikram, the best college essays are essays where these kind of stories come out, for turning points, milestones, etc. Auntie's spoken about such a great pivotal moment from her life, when she donated her kidney. She realized that moment of letting go, which set the tone for several other challenges that life had to throw at her end. What is that one turning point in your life, if say you were to apply to college today and talk about it in your college essays? What is that turning point you would bring about?
I was very well settled in England. After having completed my studies, I had a lovely job. I was working for this company called Capital Staffing, and I had no intentions of ever moving anywhere else because I've always been in love with London. Still am.
I know.
The decision to move back to India, to quit my job when I was doing so well, and to move back to India was a very tough one. It was an emotional decision because my father was not well. But at the same time, it was also an emotionally challenging decision because I did not want to let go of my job or of London.
For sure. Because you worked hard for it, right? You had worked, it was earned, it was not given. And you had to leave something which was earned to come back to something which people would say that now it's given. So that, I think, must have been such a
It was
huge
basically my love for
sacrifice.
London. And it was just that. And I was living in Notting Hill. Since I saw the movie, I knew that that's where I wanted to live. So here I had my dream job, my lovely apartment in Notting Hill, a fantastic circle of friends who are still my friends. And we still holiday together sometimes. We went to Courchevel together a couple of years ago.
Right.
Then, to suddenly just leave all of that and move back to India was very tough. It took me some time to adjust back in this country. It really did.
No, I can remember. What really changed? I know when you adjusted, what the pre-change Vikram to post-change Vikram, what is that one thing which really you think?
So dad and mama would tell me that if you're not happy, go back. But if you want to stay here, then you make the most of what you have and we want to see a happy, smiling face. And that's when I began to think about things and I suddenly realized that there was so many new friends I was making. One thing that Delhi has given me is a fantastic circle of friends. Now, you must remember that I'm not from Delhi.
Yeah.
I was not born and raised here. I moved to Delhi in 2005 as an adult. For someone like that, Delhi has been amazing. It's almost like Delhi welcomed me with open arms.
That's so sweet.
So I'm going to fast forward further and ask you now the difference in the post London to India return Vikram versus Vikram as a father now. If you were to tell us what are some of the changes that you have seen or people have seen within you after having Shivai and pre-Shivai.
I've become calmer. I've become more patient. I feel more settled.
Yeah.
And also you think more sensibly. Earlier, there were so many times when I would catch a flight and go to London just to attend a party.
Yeah.
Now, I ask myself, do I really need to do it? You know, that means that I won't be seeing my son for so many hours.
Yes.
Is it worth it? He's
He's
going to be looking
one-
for me.
Yeah.
Forget it.
Auntie, one thing which you really taught your children, and because when they needed to conduct their life, what was that one thing you really addressed to them?
I told them not to be in awe of anybody and not to look down on anybody. You should respect people for their talent, for their good points, but never be in awe because they're also human beings.
Sure.
And never to look down on anybody because everybody comes with a value addition. Everybody is there to teach you a lesson and you learn from everybody. So it's very important.
Yes.
And this should be the fun of life.
That's so
Respect for
beautiful.
everybody.
And now we are going to move to our favorite segment, which is Behind the Closed Doors, where we are going to be asking some fun questions to Vikram about his mum and some questions to Auntie about Vikram. And let's see what fun facts, quirks, secrets, and whatever else has to unfold really comes out. So, Shivani, you want to start first?
Yes. Auntie, what is Vikram's most dramatic childhood meltdown story that still makes you laugh?
I know this one.
He was
She's already
studying in
laughing.
Vellum Boys.
Auntie.
And when he came home for the vacation, he made sure that he was, he sat at the dining table and all the elders were there. And he said, I'm going to have my meal with them today. And he said, he told his Dadi, Ma, I don't get enough milk to drink. And he told his Tauji that, I have to eat with a fork and a spoon. And, there's so many kankars and little stones in the rice that removing them, half my rice goes away. And so I'm all the time hungry. And my mother-in-law said, what kind of a mother are you? She told me that you sent him to a school and over here, there's tons of milk.
Yeah.
There's enough food. What's the matter with you? You're just a cruel mother.
Oh my God. Okay. And if Vikram could eat, that's a good one. If Vikram could eat only one dish for the rest of his life, what would it be? And how specific is he about that dish?
He would eat, it would be guacamole.
Oh my God, our little international boy. मेरा पोहा होता, ये हमारा guacamole.
Guacamole.
What's the one thing about him that you just don't get? Like a habit, a phrase, or a routine that completely puzzles you about him?
What puzzles me about him is that he's spontaneous in making programs. Okay, and, all of a sudden I'm going here, going there, and that puzzles me that now he's a parent.
Yeah.
And not only that,
There's no planning.
there's no planning. What
But
is
I've
this?
cut down on that so much.
I know.
Maybe.
So much.
And this is his planning that he's
planning,
cut down. So much. And what's his superpower in the family? What role does he really play when things go sideways?
He's very good at accepting his mistake and he's very good at bonding. He's very good at bonding. He's very good at listening to people and he's very good at bonding. So if there are differences between certain family members, he definitely has the knack and the talent
To be the bridge.
to bridge the gap
Yeah.
and bring them together.
This, Auntie, I have to say, when Vikram, you say na, that you were welcomed with open arms in Delhi, when everybody is all about showing off, you came as a listener. That's why everybody loves you so much. It's so true, Auntie. He's this one boy who always has given attention when a conversation is taking place.
That's a very big talent.
It's a very big talent. It is really his superpower that he makes people feel special.
Yeah.
So that even I can say because all of us have that fondness for him.
Yeah.
What does unconditional love and kindness mean to you, Auntie?
Accepting my children the way they are, accepting my friends the way they are, and accepting myself the way I am. And that's not easy. Accepting myself is not easy the way I am. That's the toughest.
Okay. Yes. I so true. Agree
So
with
beautiful,
you.
Auntie.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Auntie.
I'm going to now shoot questions over to you, Vikram. Okay. First, what's that one thing that your mom says that immediately means business? Like no nonsense, it's happening, no debate.
This is not acceptable.
Yeah, as soon as you hear that only, it's very scary.
I must be trembling. Okay, something is not right. All right. So if your mom had a reality show, Vikram, what would it be called?
Living life the Ayurvedic way.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
so true.
Auntie, you're all rooting for you. You should start your
Yeah,
show now.
I think we all need a little more of Ayurveda knowledge.
The world needs
actually.
to benefit from the kind of wisdom and knowledge that you have.
Thank you.
Okay. What's Auntie's guilty pleasure? Something that she claims she never does, but you know that she does when nobody's watching her.
Eat junk food.
Yeah.
So she and I have these debates, and I tell her that, Mama, it's not acceptable that you eat junk food, and she'll tell me that no, I don't. And then suddenly later on, I'll see a can of Coke, and she's like, once in a while we're allowed.
Yeah, because I'm sure she would have researched also if I'm having one can of Coke or 2 cans of Coke.
She does
What is it that I'm
Yeah.
She does it
how-
once in a blue moon,
Yeah.
Once
but-
a year or twice.
once a year or twice a year. But even at that time, I tell her that, Mama, this is not acceptable.
Is she the kind to cry at emotional ads, or she would hold it on like a pro?
No, she would not cry.
Yeah,
Not
I
at
mean, I
all.
can't imagine.
She's too strong.
After this interview
After today's
now,
interview, yeah.
I think
Very, very evident.
even we all can now.
If you were to write, Vikram, a second book with your mom, what would be the topic or the theme of that book?
It would be, of course, to do with Ayurveda, but more specific, either to old people or specific to children, something akin to that.
Yeah.
What is the most mom thing that she does that you secretly admire about her?
Her hugs.
Oh.
And now the hugs that Shivai gets
Yeah.
from her as well. Yeah. Okay. Last question, Vikram, to you. What does unconditional love and kindness mean to you?
I've learned that from Mama, of course, that you have to accept yourself for the way you are. You have to accept people for how they are. And you have to accept a situation for what it is.
Beautiful.
Acceptance is a big thing.
Yes. So true.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Auntie. Thank you so much, Vikram.
Our
What a
pleasure.
pleasure it was, especially today, Vikram, just having such an amazing conversation with Auntie and knowing such a beautiful story of resilience, of strength, of understanding, and of breaking it down
Of
into
letting
your.
go of getting your
letting
knowledge
go.
across to the world.
It has truly been
Amazing.
what a beautiful, beautiful talk we've had. And thank you so much, Vikram. You're always one of my favorites. And you've been so sweet and you've spoken so beautifully about your journey. Really, all the very best to you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Shivani.
much,
Thank
both.
you, Punya. It was wonderful being here and with such soul-searching questions also. Some of them were really good, very deep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope you liked today's episode. So today we discussed about parenting, we discussed about love, about co-parenting, about family lineage, family legacy, running a family business, running it together with grace and humility, letting to go of, having that selfless love for the other person that you can go to any extent, even donating an organ, and then appreciating that act, that how much courage you drew from it. I think today's episode was absolutely phenomenal, and as a host, really, really gratifying. What do you think, Shamani?
You know, for me, I have known Vikram and Auntie, Dr. Madhu Sharma, forever. But today was the first time I really knew Auntie and Vikram. Such a beautiful conversation. I didn't know that she had such depth of knowledge in research. We'd always thought that, sometimes you can just have designations in your company. But when I really heard how she's so passionate about her research and how she's that same kind of research mentality, she has it raising her children, ensuring that she takes life through that route of, dissecting whatever's not working for her and throwing it out, only keeping it clean so that you could move forward. It's such an important message for us all to understand how a woman of her generation is still so relevant and so valid. And of course, it comes out, it comes across in Vikram, that Vikram has that ethos of being grounded and raising a child. So yeah, it was really lovely.
So if you like today's episode, don't forget to click on that subscribe button. Subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on Instagram, follow us on Spotify, and we'll love having you with us. Join every podcast. We'll come back with some more interesting people like we had today. A lot of more stories are going to be shared. A lot of more inspiration is going to be drawn by you. Hopefully, that's what our endeavor is. Don't forget to see us next fortnight. Shubhani and I will be here with you again. See you soon.